Craig, I have to ask this question. Is it just the most traumatic thing in a guy's life to see another man's penis? If you are a straight male.
I mean, strictly speaking, there is locker rooms in sports. I myself never wanted to look south.
If I put you in a situation where you were ducking under water at the pool, and I made you open your eyes and all you saw was dicks, how would you feel?
A little off-put, to be honest.
See? There you go. There you go.
Welcome, one and all, to the CorpsyAnn Chat Box. This is episode 74, and I'm your host, Gregory. It's been a hot minute since I've hosted, the last one being Devilman Crybaby. But I'm not alone this week. We have the lovely ladies.
Yes!
But no gentleman this week, because he's at Tokunatsu. The one that said yas is the producer extraordinaire to my immediate right, Cass.
I'm gonna apologize in advance. I've barely eaten anything. Damn, I'm on this thing called the keto diet. And, so I'm ravaging this nice wrapped sandwich from Jimmy John's. It's called an unwich. Also, John being gone is just in preparation for us to immediately review Yuru Camp in the coming weeks, so.
Oh, yeah, because he's in a tent!
He's doing on-site research.
That's amazing.
Oh, you're right. He did. So that's the reason behind that Snapchat. And the lovely lady, the sweet cinnamon roll of the podcast, to my immediate left, Cammy.
Hello there. I was gonna think of something cute to say, but now I forgot. I'm just really excited about the fact that John is in a tent, and now I'm thinking about Yuru Camp, so yeah.
Anone.
Oh God, cells at work. Okay, anyway, I'm good.
Okay, we need for our Patreon tier to have you doing Anone be one of the ringtones.
I'll do that. Anone,
please.
Anone.
I need
Donate,
it on my
please.
phone right now. I just need the Anone, please. Yes.
You got it.
Speaking of Patreon, let's discuss our social deets. Twitter.com/AnnieChatbox. For all of your social media desires in 280 characters or less. We post updates of the episodes every Friday, or sometimes Saturday. You know, I'm kind of the person behind it, but I try, damn it!
You're the best co-producer we have ever had.
The best.
I try. If you also want to submit a topic suggestion or an anime suggestion to review, hit us up an email. Email is anniechatmail@gmail.com. Again, that is anniechatmail@gmail.com. And naturally, you can find us on multiple platforms around the internet sphere. We're found on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. Hit us up with ratings of 5 stars are recommended. That makes us rise to the top, as it were. We can read your review on the air. We're also on YouTube, if you wish, for that platform as well, with a nice graphic.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/AnnieChatbox. If you find it within your heart of hearts, aka Kingdom Hearts, to donate hot cash muns to the cause, to, what have you, for various tiers and rewards, check it out.
We have a loyal patron. Don't forget to announce.
Oh, we do.
I could do it. So
Yeah,
let's
Cammy,
see. How am I gonna
go.
do this? How am I gonna
It's
do
not on
this?
the dock here.
Kashira, gozonji kashira? We have a wonderful patron, and her name is Sarah CorpsyAnn Carroll, who is one of my closest friends that I gush about Utena with. Now that group has expanded, thankfully, because I had all my hosty friends here watch it with me. But Sarah has her own YouTube channel at CorpsyAnn, where she posts a lot of travel vlogs currently, along with sometimes I think she talks about books she purchases or fashion that she is up to, and even occasionally she does and or did make AMVs. So go give her a check out, and thanks again, Sarah. We appreciate what you do for us.
Rad. All right. Today, we are going to continue our trek through the summer anime season with our impressions number 2.
Woo woo!
Just to give you guys a brief recap, for efficiency's sake, we've decided to split our impressions up into 2 episodes instead of the previous 3. This is done in the hopes of getting as many of our thoughts out to you as soon as possible. This week, 2 hosts will be discussing 3 shows from their list, and the other 2 hosts will be discussing 2. This will rotate in the following episode. If you prefer this format, let us know on our Twitter or email. Again, anychatmail@gmail.com.
Unedited notes
All right.
are really funny.
Yeah, it's all good. Anyway, first up, Cammy, what have you got for us today? Show and tell.
Well. Let me do some show and tell. The first thing I'm going to talk about today is a show called Grand Blue Dreaming. And no, that is not Grand Blue Fantasy. So, this is done by Studio Zero G. The only reason I give them a quick mention, I will mention later, because animation quality is something kind of notable about this show. So I also realized, oh hey, these are the same folks that did that one anime Dive that I hated vehemently, I think last summer. And I was like, oh, well that makes some sense. That clears up some things. All right, so getting to the summary. Among the seaside town of Izu's ocean waves and rays of shining sun, Iori Kitahara is just beginning his freshman year at Izu University. As he moves into his uncle's scuba diving shop called Grand Blue, he eagerly anticipates his dream college life filled with beautiful girls and good friends. But things don't exactly go according to plan. Upon entering the shop, he encounters a group of rowdy, naked upperclassmen who immediately coerce him into participating in their alcoholic activities. Though unwilling at first, Iori quickly gives in and becomes the heart and soul of the party. Unfortunately, this earns him scorn from his cousin Chisa, who walks in at precisely the wrong time. Undeterred, Iori still vows to realize his ideal college life. But will things go according to plan, or will his situation take yet another dive? Wah wah. So.
Oh, this show, I've heard things.
Yeah, this show. So I appreciate the premise of it because it really is just about being a stupid ass like young college student and.
Frat boys, essentially.
You know, interestingly, yeah, but I find that they're, like, the characters are more endearing, and, like, from my dorm time in college, IRL frat boys are, like, assholes. And these guys are just doofy and, like, fun-loving. So I appreciate the setting of this show, and some of the jokes, like, there's a lot of jokes centered around drinking, which I do appreciate. There's actually a really funny gag where Iori, who's a freshman, and this other freshman that the upperclassmen are trying to get, like, to join their club and be crazy. They had them drink a bunch of, like, I don't know, they had them drink a bunch of something boozy for a contest, and then afterwards they're like, oh my god, I'm so tired, I need to, like, drink something else, give me some water, and then they're like, oh, here's some water, this clear liquid they get. One of them pulls out a lighter and then puts it over the water, sets on fire because it's alcohol, and they're like, this is alcohol, like, what are you doing? And they played that joke like 3 times. Like, they just handed them a glass of clear water, they check the lighter, and then they get super mad because they're just trying to get them so wasted. So, you know, that's fun. That's not something that I see all the time in anime, so I do appreciate it. However, this show is so cheaply animated. Holy crap. It's just really, really bare bones, guys. They try to do, like, crazy faces. Again, this is another comedy I had that falls into, like, wacky, crazy face comedy. But it doesn't have enough variance. It feels very generic, just like a lot of even, like, the character designs do. Everything about it feels very generic. I think the way that the comedy is held is mostly by the voice acting. But also, this show, unlike Chio School Road, where jokes fell flat, this show's main problem is that it beats jokes into the ground until they're just really not funny anymore. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, honestly, and Cassie, I feel like you would hate this just as much as I do, but the thing about his girl cousin Chisa, who he's like trying to make a good impression on. Also, it's weird they kind of push that there might be like a romance thing between them, which meh, but whatever. But you know, he always is trying to set himself up to be a good guy. He gets involved with the upperclassmen's antics. Chisa walks in and then she's like, "Oh, you're a pervert. You're dumb. I'm never talking to you again." And they like, I watched 3 episodes and it felt like they did that gag about 10 times.
I hate that.
Yes, I was so tired of it. It frustrated me so much. I was like, no, let's not do repeated jokes. They're not funny. The odd thing is, for as meh to me as this anime is, the manga is really popular. It's like one of the most popular and loved mangas of all time at this moment. So I'm really wondering if it was just an unfortunate case of a really like bad adaptation. So if the premise sounds interesting to people, I would recommend to read it, but definitely it's going to sink into, oh my god, it's gonna sink into a pool where they all have goggles on and then they open their eyes and all they see are dicks, because that was a really funny joke. Oh my god, that was great. They were like, try to open your eyes underwater, and they set it up as this like really serious moment with this monologue and music, and then it cuts and he opens his eyes and you just see the guy's dick and he's like, I'm never going underwater again. But yeah.
Craig, I have to ask this question. Is it just the most traumatic thing in a guy's life to see another man's penis? If you are a straight male.
I mean, strictly speaking, there is locker rooms in sports. I myself
if
never
I
wanted
put
to
you
look
in a
south.
if I put you in a situation where you were ducking under water at the pool, and I made you open your eyes and all you saw was dicks, how would you feel?
A little off-put, to be honest.
See, there you go. There you go. That's it in essence. And I think it's made worse in this show because all of the upperclassmen are like these freaky, like bara muscly dudes. So that's to add to the factor. But the one thing that I will say you should check out for this show is the opening song is really catchy and I like it a lot. Cassie, to bring it to context for you, it actually reminds me a lot of the Poco's Udon World opening.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like that. So give it a listen. It's up on YouTube somewhere.
It's interesting because Zach actually watched this show, just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
He also just boiled it down to saying, yo, there's a lot of dick jokes, but yes, as you said, the jokes do get boring after a while. There's also a character that really wants to get with chicks, like hardcore, and the way that they phrase it is, yo, I'm in college, but I want to wind up with high school girls. And then they kind of make it seem like he wants to get with junior high girls or something. And
oh, interesting. I wonder.
He puts idol posters up or some shit.
No, that's
like,
the otaku
what?
Guy. He's great, honestly.
Yeah.
He's really funny. Yeah, he's just a filthy otaku and everybody judges him for it. It's pretty fun. But yeah.
All right. Next up, Cass, what have you brought to show and tell today?
Okay, I have something from an era that we all might find nostalgic, and that is High Score Girl. Let me set the mood for you. The year is 1991, and 6th grader Yaguchi Haruo only has video games to live for. He's not popular in school. Neither is he handsome, funny, nice, or even very friendly, which I think are both the same thing, but okay, Mel, we'll go with it. The only thing he has going for him is that he's good at video games. One day at the local arcade, he plays Ono Akira, a fellow classmate but who's popular, smart, pretty, and a rich girl that absolutely destroys him at Street Fighter 2. Not only does he lose to her 30 times in a row, he can't beat her at any game. Haruo can't seem to shake Akira off as she follows him from arcade to arcade every day after school and beats him every time. As weird as it sounds, the odd couple begins a strange bond and friendship.
This sounds cute, not gonna lie. I wish a friendly rivalry is spawned out of this.
Yeah, and you see, the thing is, I actually kind of like this show. I think it's actually pretty cute. It's very charming, and it's actually very educational. Most of us grew up in the 90s, so we probably didn't come in contact with a lot of these things. But for example, in I think it's like the second or the third episode, he just keeps talking about this PC console that he has with like these little tiny like, oh god, I can't remember what they're...
PC Engine, honey.
Thank you, honey!
He
contributed. It's a PC engine. So, like, it's got all these, like, little tidbits of things that were actually accurate to the era and actually video games that were present then. So I think that's actually really cool. And the relationship between Ono and the main character is actually very cute. It starts out with her just beating the shit out of him at video games, and then it's just her following him around because I think that the implication is that she is someone he knows, and she feels comfortable playing games with him. And she also is brought up in a very sheltered life, so she likes being able to let things go by playing video games. The best thing about her also is that she almost never speaks. So everything that she does is very left up to interpretation. It's very cute, it's very fun, and very nostalgic. Here's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 4th show JC Staff is fucking producing this season.
Mm-hmm.
How's that budget?
The entire show is CG. All of it. The characters...
Does it require to be in CG?
No, it doesn't. The character designs are very simple. They're almost always in front of arcade machines.
Mm-hmm.
There's very little movement in the actual show.
Ugh.
So there is absolutely no fucking reason that this needs to be CG. And a lot of people I have seen say, well, if you can get over the CG, then it's a very pleasant show. And you know what? I'd agree. If CG is something that does not bother you, please watch the show. I think that a lot of people might like it. I think right now it has a 7 point something on my anime list. So people are really enjoying it. My problem isn't with the characters. It isn't with the story. It's with my eyes feel like I'm bleeding while I'm watching it.
Yeah.
The character designs, they all have that droopy CGI look that I hate. Movement is awkward. When characters fall over, it looks stupid. It looks like something that could have been made in, I don't know, like very early primitive CG days. It's not good CG. I don't like it. The opening is CG. The only thing that isn't CG is the ED, which is really cute, and I liked it a lot. I also like the ED song. That's probably my favorite part of the show. The only other criticism I have is that the show is very repetitive. It is mostly just her following him from arcade to arcade and video game to video game. It's basically a glorified way for them to advertise different video games and consoles, I feel like, and give people a nostalgic feel.
Right.
And I think that's great since in a way it is nodding to older anime fans and younger anime fans at the same time. So I think that there's a lot of premise, but it just is executed very shittily in its animation department.
Yeah.
And I just can't do it, guys. I just can't. I might go check out the manga.
I was gonna ask if it was based on one. Nice.
It is. It's based off a manga. So I might go check that out. But for the purposes of this podcast, no thank you. I can't do it. I'm too much of a... I don't know what the word for it we want to make up is. Like, I can't stand CG. I stick up my nose at CG. I'm a bad person.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about how it's implemented, and I mean, even from just the PVs that I saw, it's very jarring, like, the style of it in High Score Girl, so I don't blame you at all.
CG as a whole is very kind of hit or miss. So
I am going to sync this to the lowest standing on the scoreboard.
Aw, nice.
Damn, 0-0-0-0. They purposely tanked the score for your song in Bendori.
Basically. I mean, I think that there's a lot of charm to be had here, but it's just unfortunately not the best animated or adapted show, and I don't feel like watching any more of it, and since I don't feel like making anybody else do it either, so.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Fair enough.
Back to Cami,
right.
I believe?
Back to Cami, yep.
Oh ho ho ho, so you thought we were out of the water, my friends. You are wrong, because next we're going to talk about Free Dive to the Future.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yup.
Pete would be proud.
Oh, yay. Yay. That's all I need in life. All right, so I'm going to try to make this as least bloated as possible. So if you have not seen Free, have you been living under a rock? But anyway, it's about a bunch of friends. There's Haru, Makoto, and Rin, who have been friends since childhood, along with Nagisa, and they all like to swim, and they had a swim club. And then something happened when they were in middle school and the group split up. And then back when they were all in high school, they formed a swim team and there was a rivalry between Rin and Haru. And it's all about friendship and swimming and feelings and beautiful boys and muscles. It's a very good show. So then now, Free Dive to the Future is the third season of Free, which takes our leads Haru, Makoto, and Rin, who have graduated from high school and are now in college. Rin is currently swimming and working hard in Australia, while Haru is on a new swim team in college in Tokyo, I believe, and he's also hanging out with Makoto, who is studying to be a teacher. So at this point, it takes a weird turn because the show decides to focus on a plot that was brought up in a movie that happened in between the second season of Free and now this third season. And the movie was about another additional side story that happened when some of the characters were in middle school. So it's a little weird. And if you have not seen that movie, which is called Free Starting Days, this is going to be really confusing. Because yeah, it's confusing. And I mean, even I'm having a hard time keeping up because it's been a long time since that movie came out. But the movie Free Starting Days talked about when Haru and Makoto were in middle school. Rin was already in Australia. And then Haru and Makoto tried to create a swim team with some other boys at their middle school. There were two boys, Asahi and Ikuya. And it's just a little side story. Then the four of them split up, obviously, in high school. Then you got Free's original story. So now in season 3, with the boys in college, all of a sudden they run into Asahi again and Ikuya. And it's pretty smooth sailing with Asahi. He's on the same swim team as Haru. They're doing things. But Ikuya, apparently there was this big dramatic like fallout with Ikuya and everybody's just like, oh my god, like Ikuya goes to another school. We have to connect with him. We have to see what's happening. And you also find out that Ikuya's like really just been harboring over Haru and like haunted by him, trying to like swim as well as him for this past like how many years. And it feels really just like inserted. This kind of feels like a fan fiction. I'm not going to lie.
It sounds like? It sounds like when Love Live had its second season called Love Live Sunshine, where they took an aspect of the original and tried to redo it, but it just sounds like a knockoff redo. Because you know what that sounds like? Rin's story in the first season.
It is.
Milking it for all it's worth.
It is. And like, as much as I don't... Okay, so I don't think this is a spoiler because season 2 and it's free, why would you be surprised? The other thing they are doing with Ikuya that I hate is they're putting this weird Ikuya-Haru romance thing into it. And I'm like, look, boy already has a love triangle. Like, we don't need this. Why is it here? Like, give me the boys that I'm already invested in. It's fucking weird.
We need more.
Yeah,
we need more.
Yes, and not to mention that not only is Ikuya's story kind of carbon copied, Ikuya himself is just like an edgier skin of Haru. He's really lifeless, and I don't like him, and I don't give a shit about him.
I like him aesthetically.
Aesthetically, yeah, he's very pretty.
I was about to say, do you like all the free boys aesthetically if you really think about it?
I mean, not necessarily. I'm not a huge fan of Shark Teeth, and as much as Makoto is like my favorite character, how big and muscly he is, I'm not attracted to. I'm attracted to his personality more than his character design.
I love his teddy bear aspect where he's got, like, he's tall and broad-shouldered, but he's a good boy, and he's got, like, little lazy eyes. I love it.
Listen, I ship him and Haru to Kingdom Come. I just don't see him as something I lust after when it comes to my anime boys lust machine. I like the lanky ones, like Akechi. And
oh my god. Why'd you have to do that, Cassie? Now I'm not going to be able to concentrate the whole podcast.
Bring you back over to my side.
No, I love you.
Kimmy, just real quick. Just real quick. Out of curiosity, so I watched episode 1. I didn't watch any more of this show, but like episode 1's pacing felt a little slow. Do you just generally think that this show that season 2 ended pretty nicely, and now that season 3's here, they're just like saying, oh, let's try and make up a new plot line, even though season 2 ended pretty well and everything was wrapped up, but let's try and make an epilogue series after they went to college. Do you feel as though it's spinning the wheels at this point?
Honestly, yeah. I was gonna say also, to me, I had the thought when I was watching this, and I was like, this is going to be the season 2 of Black Butler, where there have been 3 seasons of Black Butler. Season 2 was based on anime original stuff that was not in the manga and completely like changed up the ending and like canon of the entire show. We don't talk about season 2 of Black Butler. And I'm very worried that season 3 of Free is going to do that. Like, it feels like they're just very much belittling things that were already founded in the original story for the sake of creating a brand new story. So I absolutely think so. On a plus side, this show's just even more gorgeous than like Free already was, if that was possible. Damn you, Kyoani, like, and the production's actually really cool. There was a good thing in episode 3 that I loved where a character wakes up and then we get a montage of them like getting ready in the morning, making breakfast, brushing their teeth, like going to their campus. But how they do it is the character puts in headphones and then presses play, and we get this really like cool kawaii bass like house music that's playing that's absolutely my shit while this montage is going on. And I was like, oh my god, this is so fucking cool. I love it.
Nice.
So very nice touches to it. And the voice acting is great again. It just feels like it's really fun to see all of the characters again. But story-wise, it feels odd and a bit out of place. And I do think that if you really, really love Free, it's going to be great. But, you know, I think that outside of me, and then, like, Cassie, I know you need to catch up and, like, watch the movie eventually and stuff, or you want to, right?
I do. I'm most likely gonna check it out at some point, either with you or Rin, or maybe both of you, because you've both expressed an interest in watching it with me, so I might just be like, hey, girls.
We should.
You both love Free. I like Free a whole lot.
We should totally do that.
Let's watch this movie.
Yeah.
So, what was the verdict on this one?
So there was that, but the more that I think about it, this definitely falls into one of those shows that I'm still going to watch personally, but I don't think for the sake of our podcast, I need to pass it. If you like Free, you're already watching it, so I mean, you know, you don't need another real opinion. Hit me up on Kitsu for like discussion and stuff, or on Twitter. Let's do that. But for the podcast, it's going to sink into a lot of water that has a lot of bubbles that tend to like wrap around the characters and drown them because, drowning metaphors for sadness.
March comes in like a lion did it better.
They really did.
No dissing, by the way. The water in Free is gorgeous, and I love Free. I'm just saying. In
it's too
regards
sexy.
to drama and drowning metaphors, in regards to depression, March comes in like a lion, guys.
Indeed.
I don't know.
Jesus. Cass, you're back up again.
Okay, so the second show I get to talk about today is Shoujo. I can't talk today. Shoujo, Kageki, Revue, Starlight, with a nice little star between Shoujo and Kageki. I am so excited to talk about this show. So let's start with the synopsis. Starlight is a song and dance revue troupe loved throughout the world. Karen and Hikari make a promise with each other when they were young. One day, they'll stand on the Starlight stage together. Time passes, and now the girls are 16 years old. Karen is very enthusiastic about the lesson she takes every day, holding her promise close to her heart. Hikari has transferred schools and is now away from Karen. But the cogs of fate turn, and the two are destined to meet again. The girls and the other stage girls will compete in a mysterious audition process to gain acceptance into the revue. Alright, so this one is animated by Studio Kinema Citrus, which is a studio I like enough. They've done some pretty good work. But I will say, this one has got to be my favorite. Like, this is my favorite show of the season. right up there with Asabi Asabase. But if we're talking like quality storytelling and visuals, this is like the pinnacle of my summer, and I'm so excited to talk about it. So one thing that I think is really cool about this show is that it's based around a theater troupe. And it's based around them wanting to be the top star. And this is a very real thing. It actually made me do a little bit of research. And also Zach, a friend of the podcast who comes on here occasionally, and we got into this very interesting discussion about the difference between theater troupe girls and idols. And I still don't agree with a word he says. But you know what? To each their own. This is not an idol show. It is a show about girls who perform in theater. They sing, they dance, they work every single day to get better and become the top dog. Now, I think what the most interesting aspect of this is that there is this constant metaphor of you got to be the last man standing. Mm-hmm. And the main character has a very different opinion. She wants to become a top star with her best friend. And there's this very interesting Ikuhara vibe to the show when it comes to destiny and fate. And, the fates of two girls who are trying to be together, but for some reason can't be because of this game they are forced to play. Sounds familiar, anybody? But yeah, there's some straight out like Ikuhara, I won't say ripoff, but inspirations here. Like for example, during the revues, instead of a rose having to be sliced off, it's their little cape thing. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's part of their costume. And once that's removed, the other person loses. There's a lot of theatrics that are thrown in. Granted, it's a theater production, but when it comes to how things move on set, how dynamic things are on a set in general. It's both realistic and fantastical, and I think that's really cool. Also, all the girls are very intriguing. Their character designs are very pretty. And it does play a lot into, I will give Zach this, kind of like the idol aesthetic, I guess. Yeah. But it's a completely different thing, and I think that's what's cool about it. Yeah. There's also a lot of stairs, elevators, symbolism. There's just so much going on here, and I'm really happy about it though, because I guess the director, I'm trying to pull it up, but my anime list on my phone is kind of a dick. But I guess I'm going to see if it'll let me pull it up. But I guess the person who is directing this actually worked under Ikuhara in the past.
Which is amazing. That's
right? So
awesome.
He's taking a lot of that inspiration and applying it elsewhere, and that makes me so fucking happy. I'm also watching it with Dominic, and it makes me happy that I get to share it with somebody, even though he's not a huge Ikuhara fan, so let's hope he stays on the bandwagon for as long as humanly possible.
Do you want me to tell you the director's name? Because I have
Go for it.
Tomohiro Furukawa. He worked with him on Yurikuma Arashi.
Yep.
There you go.
So definitely a lot of that influence is being shown here, but in the best possible way. And I love it. I look forward to this show every week. I actually had to very quickly watch episode 3 before recording because just life happened. But this and Asabi Asabase are the two shows I'm looking forward to most this season. 150%. So, yeah, it's going to swim, and we're going to watch it, and we're going to make those comparisons, and it's going to be fun. I think we'll all have a lot of fun with it. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm certainly excited for it. I messaged you after I watched episode 1, and I was like, yeah, I feel a lot of Ikuhara stuff. I also feel with like the two main characters, I kind of feel a Madoka Homura thing going on, but I'm curious how that will
that's what Zach was saying too.
I feel it a bit too, but I also feel like he's kind of trying to do an Utena Anthe thing too.
Yeah.
Only without one of them being completely like emotionless, but trying to keep her away from the games. And so on and so forth. But we could always dissect that and compare it later. There is one thing about the show that I'm not particularly fond of, and it's the very beginning. Now, here's the thing. I love her transformation sequence, because it's got a very magical girl aesthetic, but it's also, like, very out there and industrial. Like, it makes her costume, and then she has, like, the little brush of makeup across her cheek. But the first thing where she's, like, falling and the screen is all red... I don't
Yeah.
like that.
Mm.
I
That
see.
red-
With the text on the screen?
Yeah, with the text on the screen. I'm fine with the text because I get what they're
Interesting.
doing. I 150% see what they're doing, but I just don't like the bright red. It hurts my eyes.
That's fair.
Oh,
yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that the transformation was mechanical, because when I first saw that, I literally wanted to take that clip and dub it over with Rock Over Japan from Mawaru Penguin Drum, because it just reminded me of it so much.
Yeah, it's very cool. I like it a lot, and I'm very intrigued to see where it goes from here. It's a very stunning and different anime. I
Yeah.
also hear that it's going to be getting a phone game. So
Ooh.
Yep, because
R.I.P.
it's the
Bushimo or
yep,
Bushiroad
Bushimo.
is sponsoring and helping create it or whatever.
Oh,
Bushiroad is also responsible for my current money sink, Bandori, and also aren't they Love Live as well?
yep, Love Live School Idol Festival.
There
So
you
so I guess it's my turn then.
Yeah, what you got for us, Craig?
First up on the chopping block for me is Dropkick on My Devil, aka Jashin-chan Dropkick, Studios Nomad. What they've done is Camphor, Rosen Maiden, and Bludgeoning Angel Dokuro-chan, aka Bokusatsu Tenshi Dokuro-chan. The synopsis is quick and sweet and to the point. Jashin-chan Dropkick is a violent slapstick comedy about a delusional gothic Lolita, Yurine, who summons a demon girl with the tail of a cobra, Jashin-chan. They'll have to live together until Yurine finds a way to send Jashin-chan back to hell, or until Jashin-chan kills Yurine. Why I chose this? Basically, we all said that we're watching the show at one point or another. Friend of the show, Suki, said that she's watching this and said we all should watch this, and I watched the first couple episodes with her. How do I describe the show? So yeah, I mentioned Bludgeoning Angel, Dokuro-chan. That is also a slapstick comedy where the main character tries to kill the other main character constantly, and that's the running shtick of the show. Jashin-chan is essentially that. The art style is very simplistic, very cute, pretty straightforward to the point character designs. I've also heard this show in the around episode 1 that they're like, hey, this is like Miss Kobayashi's Maid Dragon, but the main characters hate each other, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I don't know if any of you guys here watched any of this show, but
Nah, I took your advice and just didn't try it out.
Yeah, I am curious your thoughts on it, because I didn't check it out.
Okay, so if you wanted to see Yurine and Jashin-chan try and kill each other almost every 5 to 10 minutes, this is your show. It's a running gag, which honestly kind of got boring for me after a hot minute, especially watching 2 episodes in a row and then me watching episode 3. It strikes this weird balance where they try and kill each other, yet they live under the same roof, and they try and take care of each other, and they immediately throw you in with this cast of characters. There's a fallen angel, there's Medusa as a demon, there is a a bull demon girl named Miso, I believe her name was, and honestly, it's just Jashin trying to be a dick to everyone, and including Yurine, and Yurine just essentially trying to kill her because she's like, oh, I'm stoic, and you're being an asshole, stop being an asshole. And Jashin-chan was like, oh, Medusa, I love you. Now give me money to pay my bill so I can go and eat all the food. Oh, I cooked you all this meat. Now I'm gonna eat all of it. And it's just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. The best character in the show is Medusa, because she is essentially too sweet for her own damn good and too naive. So, I don't know, just for the sake of this podcast, this show sinks into the pits of hell, and comedy is subjective. Again, ultimately, if you think Dokuro-chan or that style of comedy is your bag, then give it a shot. I may continue on this train by myself, but we'll see how long I stick. But again, for the sake of this podcast, it sinks.
Cinco.
I had a quick question, actually.
Hell.
Is it a short or is it a full 30-minute series?
It's a full 30-minute series,
wow.
and here's the interesting thing, too. I went and tried to look at the source material. It is based on an actual manga with like 10 to 15 pages long, and this manga, or rather this anime, just does all original skits. Like, they throw you literally in, and your introduction is literally the opening.
I see. Okay.
Like, it just shows the opening, and then they're having a party, and that's your character introductions. And I'm like, well, this story isn't necessarily the deepest, but at the same time, it'd be like, okay. Give or take, the manga only has about 35 to 40 chapters out, so,
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Next up. Who's next here? I'm struggling
I
to get to the
am
app.
going to be possessed by the ghost of John to give his very quick impression on Yuragi-sou no Yuuna-san, also known as Yuuna and the Haunted Hot Springs. Done by Studio Zebek. Which
Zebek.
I think weren't they the ones behind Keijo and a few others?
I believe so. They're also responsible for To Love Rue.
Well, there you go. And I think that's how we know what we're getting ourselves into. So buckle up, sailors.
A fun time.
Yeah. So the synopsis that was so beautifully provided to me by John goes as such. Blah, 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 blah. I can talk today. Fuyazora Kogarashi has the ability to see the supernatural and has been possessed by ghosts since he was a kid. This has caused a lot of trouble in his life, but now he's learning to fight back against these evil spirits. Unfortunately, he's now also very poor, homeless, and hoping for a happier, more normal high school life.
Yeah, are we all, though?
I mean, he's a high schooler. I think he has it a little more rough. I think we weren't homeless when we were in high school. In his search for housing, he's introduced to a very cheap boarding house called Yuragi Manor, which was formerly a popular hot springs inn. It's so cheap because the house is haunted by the spirit of a high school student whose corpse was found there. Kogarashi doesn't think this is going to be a problem for him, and the rest of the house tenants appear to be sexy women. While relaxing in the hot springs, though, he finds there's an issue with his ghost banishing plan. Yuragi Manor's ghost is a 16-year-old girl named Yuuna, who lives in his room. Kogarashi has no desire to hurt a ghost girl, and instead he ends up agreeing to help her figure out her unfinished business. That way, she can move on to the afterlife before turning evil and falling into hell. Once it's clear that he's fine with Yuuna, the other tenants reveal their own supernatural secrets. His life in Yuragi Manor is going to be far from ordinary.
Ooh la la.
Alright, so John's thoughts on this were as such. I mistook this for a completely different series with a similar premise. A guy starts renting a super cheap apartment only for various supernatural beings to appear and hijinks ensues. Sorry, I can't read. While the first episode of this started off fairly charming with the initial meeting between Kogarashi and Yuuna and how he came to decide that he'd send her to heaven by resolving her regrets and making her happy, that then using force? I don't know what he's trying to mean there. However, it quickly devolved into Kogarashi finding Yuuna in some compromising situations and getting thrown out of the window. Usually into hot springs baths outside and often while other girls are bathing. Fan service galore, in caps.
Yeah.
The potential uncensored Blu-ray release, kind of fan service at that.
Yeah.
It got some chuckles out of me at times, but for the most part it was predictable, cringeworthy, and borderline pornography. It's fun, but dumb. If you enjoy this, then all power to you, but for the purpose of this podcast, it sinks. It sinks to the bottom of the haunted hot spring and should be held down until the bubbles stop.
Wow, that's fucking hardcore.
John
I told you guys, the one who's going to snap and become a serial killer is John. It's little moments like this that are the hints, and no one's believing me.
It's just, like, I knew what kind of premise this is, and that sounds just essentially bare bones of a plot. My thought process is, yo, this is a manga in Shonen Jump proper, and it's been running since 2016, so that's gotta be like, where's the hook here? Does it have a hook at some point? Or is it just...
There are two hooks, Craig. There are two big, heavy hooks.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, I didn't finish reading the rest of this. When he said until the bubbles stop, he also wrote possibly to become a spirit to be dragged down to hell later.
I'm done. John is a great writer. I love it.
Can I go to... I'll go to hell gladly.
I mean, I was honestly very happy about the fan service galore, the potential uncensored Blu-ray release kind of fan service.
Mm-hmm.
I think John needs to start writing all of his stuff before he actually says it, because he's very funny.
It's awesome.
I mean, to be... Again, it's the same people that brought you to Revue, the uncensored Blu-ray galore TV show, so...
Yeah, so this one's being drowned to death in a hot spring by John, so...
Jesus Christ.
With his own bare hands, I guess.
I love it.
Until the bubbles stop.
Cammy, are you going to be as kind or as cruel to your next show?
Well, let me get started. So, again, how is the best way that I go about this? So, my original other pick that I had for this season was called Tsukumogami Kashimasu, or We Rent Tsukumogami, as Crunchyroll translated it. So, it's a show about siblings. What are their names again? Obeni and Seiji, and they own a shop where people can rent everyday items like pots, futons, and clothing. So they're lended out. They don't buy them, but they keep them. And anyway, so these siblings run this shop, but their shop is also haunted by Tsukumogami that basically inhabit these small everyday items. So they're Japanese spirits, and the items come to life, and they talk, and they're cute little mascot characters, and they cause all sorts of crazy trouble. So it's kind of just like a day-to-day of this this duo in the Edo period running a shop, and there's also just supernatural influences to it. So I was going to review this, but the next episode is actually not out until Monday. The show released really, really late. And my overall thoughts on it is that it presents a really interesting premise, but it falls by a lackluster execution. This show is really just characters spewing out dialogue. It's conversation, frame of one person talking, frame of the other person talking, and it's very dense, and it is written in a way that expects you to know everything already about like the Edo period and culture back then, and like all these terms that just fly over my head, which just honestly I got really bored really quick due to those two things. The thing that I do like about the show is that the setting is really nice, the art is very nice, and fun fact, character designs are by Lily Hoshino, who also did the character designs for Mawaru Penguin Drum. Yeah. There are little end cards that she illustrates every time, and I'll like have to show you guys one, and then one of the end cards from Penguin Drum, you can tell the similarity like instantly, which is really cool. So I do like the aesthetic of the show, but I just think that it was pretty lukewarm overall. But also, since I couldn't really do a full review of that, and because I've just desperately wanted to talk about this show, I'm going to do a full impression on a show called Hanebado for you guys today. So, the synopsis for Hanebado goes as such. Ayano Hanesaki, a first-year student at Kanagawa Prefectural Kitakomachi High School, has a badminton ability, able to surpass others effortlessly, but she avoids playing the sport until she meets Nagisa Aragaki, a third-year student who practices day and night, aiming to become the best player in Japan. Encouraged by the coach Tachibana Kentaro and supported by club colleagues and fired up by various rivals, the two engage in their youth and adored sport so thrilling like a shuttle flown at high speed. Interesting, Mal. So yeah, you've got the two main girls. They're kind of opposites. One just works really hard, and then one has natural talent that for reasons she doesn't want to engage in badminton. So it's very much, it has the makings of a pretty standard sports anime. But hey, you know what's really cool? It's an all-girl cast. Ah, that's awesome.
Nice.
Or excuse me, all-girl team, actually. One thing that's really cool is when the characters are just practicing badminton, like, every day after school, there's actually a couple boys that are also in the gym and practice. So it's got that kind of natural sense where it doesn't feel like you're in a world that only has characters of one sex, which sometimes I think can be imbalanced in sports anime. Some other sports anime do it really well. But I like that about it. So this show feels to me like an appealing blend of sports anime and also Hibike Euphonium. So let me explain that. This show has melodrama. And Cassie, I think you even mentioned that you'd heard that people said that there's a bit of like a melodrama to this show, like the tone of it.
Yeah, that's the biggest criticism I've seen for it. I'll have to have you. I'll ask you later, but I even watched like a small review somebody did of like the summer impressions, and they were like, "Oh, look, here's this girl after she sees this girl who murdered her entire family a year ago." And it does like a dramatic pan, and then she's like, actually, no, it's when she sees a girl who beat her at badminton at one time.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say it's unwarranted criticism. Like, the first scene, I was like, what are we doing? It's so intense. And like, I think I even recall like that scene that they're talking about. And yeah, I was like, whoa, this seems like a lot for badminton. But then after that, the show tended to feel a bit more grounded, which I appreciated. There's also a really like scary looking shot in the opening, which for the most part is like upbeat, but there's a shot where like one of the girls looks possessed and like it's terrifying. But you know what? That was also kind of interesting to me, I guess. I was like, well, where are we gonna go from here? So the melodrama starts out as kind of a flashback to bring you to where the mains are at currently, like where their mindset is and how they're approaching badminton. And then it gets to be more grounded. You meet more members of the team and also just like friends of the other main characters. And I really enjoyed the characterization of all the girls. I thought they were really interesting and fascinating. So it feels kind of like Hibike Euphonium, where you've got a lot of interesting characters, but there's kind of weird character development. Like, Cassie, I know you know what I mean. Like, Hibike's girls were sometimes hard to understand, like, where they were coming from, or it, like, wasn't shown well to the audience. So you get a bit of that in Hanebado, especially in the first episode, but I feel like since then they are trying to do a better job than Hibike did of bringing you the background of where the girls are at. They do a fair amount of flashbacks to give you context, which is, I think, done relatively nicely. I would say that overall, though, characterization isn't fluid, but you know what keeps me in? The beautiful freaking art and music. This show is really stunning, guys. Like, oh my god. The presentation of everything is just so wonderful and like keeps you in. There's so many details and just like really unique camera shots also. I really, really like it. So at first I was just watching it for that reason, really, because the production was pretty, but I also started to get really attached to the characters. This is a show to me that has potential flaws, but for me the pros outweigh the cons, and I'm usually left kind of wanting to watch more or like feeling warm and happy about what I saw. So I also think it'd be good for us to talk about, so I am totally passing it. I'm so excited.
Yes. I'm excited to give it a shot. No
Hey.
pun intended.
Yeah.
Shot,
21 love, baby. Okay, I'm good.
Oh my god.
Lordy. All right. Cass.
Okay, so now I get to talk about Happy Sugar Raifu.
Woo!
Woo!
Are you happy?
I mean, that's a job for my therapist to figure out, I think. But
Does this show make you happy?
you know, it's complicated.
I was gonna say
let's have a I will say right now, Happy Sugar Life has a 7.16 on my anime list.
Hey, that's a 0.16. That's higher than average.
Yeah, a 7.16. That's that means a lot of people actually like the show, which actually to me is actually kind of surprising. But then I remember like Aramanga Sensei was really widely liked too, and it also has very similar problematic elements. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's talk about what Happy Sugar Life is about. So this is a shivering, pure love psycho horror story. Wow, they just don't hold back, do they?
Nope.
This is a shivering, pure love psycho horror story of a girl named Sato Matsuzaka who has someone who she likes. She experiences a sweet feeling when she sleeps with her and thought it must be love. This is a very awkward synopsis, but whatever. Everything will be forgiven as long as she protects this feeling, even if she tricks, commits crimes, steals, or even kills, she thought. Okay, I'm going to give a better synopsis. So Happy Sugar Life...
Get it, girl. Get it.
Yeah. Happy Sugar Life is indeed about a girl named Sato Matsuzaka. And the show opens very interestingly because you think, unless you have previously seen this, watched the trailer, or read the manga, all you see is a girl taking care of another younger girl. Like preschool or like at least elementary school. I'm not entirely sure how old Shio is. I'd have to look at it. She's a child. And it just seems like someone who genuinely loves somebody. And at first, when I first started reading the manga, I thought it was a familial kind of love. And what I find very interesting about this show and the manga, which is why I'm obsessed with the manga, is that it has this very weird kind of question that it constantly is asking about what love really is. And one of the main criticisms I see about this show is that it's quote-unquote pedophilic. I don't agree. I do think that there is a pedophilic character in the show, and he makes me uncomfortable, and they by no means glorify that. And I think that's what's the interesting thing about Happy Sugar Life. It knows just how fucked up it is. It's kind of like how Eromanga Sensei knows just how nonsensical and dumb it is. And I think that that's one of the main drawing points to Happy Sugar Life is it is just so fucked up, but it is asking questions, and every single person in this cast, it has gone through some sort of traumatic event. These are not normal people. Sato's backstory will be explained eventually, but there are instances in the very beginning of the show itself that show that she had a very awkward and strange childhood where she didn't know what love even was. So she, slept around a lot in high school trying to find that feeling. And of course, guys will be guys in high school and say, oh, I love you, but none of them actually meant it. And that, built on that trauma. So when she feels this love for Shio, familial or otherwise, it's something new to her. So she doesn't understand that it's problematic. I'm not saying that that's okay, but it's by no means sexualized. However, there is a character later on who is very, 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 very uncomfortable. But his bit is that he is raped very early on in the show. And so he has a distaste for older women because of that traumatic experience. So his preference starts being for younger girls, but not in a sexual way, but more of a I just want to be touched and purified by them way. So it's very uncomfortable and weird, but it also explores trauma in a very interesting and different way, and all with younger characters.
Yeah.
So that's why I've always found this show to be interesting, regardless of how strange and horrific its content might be. However, due to its content, I was very confused on whether I should swim it or not, even though I do think that there's a lot I could talk about here. Then John made the mistake of saying if I pass it, he'll watch it. So I'm going to swim it.
Nice.
And we can have a conversation about it. There's actually if we don't have this topic with Happy Sugar Life, there is a topic that was brought up in our Discord server, which everybody can totally join and hang out with us. But, about, problematic things in anime and whether they're a good or a bad thing, and what is too far and basically going and describing and exploring issues, such as, sexualizing young children or children being in bad places. And I think that it would be an interesting topic.
That's actually kind of a good segue into your last pick, right, Craig?
Oh, speaking of tragic.
I mean, children being in bad places.
Poor boy. The last show that I'm going to talk about this evening, the best for last, because I sank all my other shows. Banana Fish.
That's another thing. Everybody else was so critical this season. I was like, I guess I can pass 3.
Jesus.
Heck
So
yeah.
we have at least 8 shows for this season. Oh, Jesus. Continue.
Summer's really great, guys. Summer's really fucking great.
Summer was really rough this year.
Jesus. Okay, again, Banana Fish. It's Studios Mappa. You know what they've done. If you don't, then here are some titles which will tickle your fancy. Kids on the Slope, for one, aka Sakamichi no Apollyon?
More like Sakamichi My Feels. Yes, Apollon. It's Apollon.
Exactly, and a show that Cass really jibes with Terror in Resonance, aka Zankyo no Terror.
Ooh.
Synopsis goes as such. Nature made Ash Lynx beautiful. Nature made him Ash Lynx beautiful. Nurture made him a cold, ruthless killer. A runaway brought up as the adopted heir and sex toy of, quote, Papa Dino Golzine. Ash, now at the rebellious age of 17, forsakes the kingdom held out by the devil who raised him. But the hideous secret that drove Ash's older brother literally insane in Vietnam has suddenly fallen into Papa's unstable, ambitious hands, as it's exactly the wrong time for Eiji Okumura, a pure-hearted young photographer from Japan, to make Ash Lynx's acquaintance. Real quick, fun facts about this. This gets its namesake, and actually, in the first couple episodes, they reference, what the fuck is Banana Fish? And it's actually the name of J.D. Salinger's short story, A Perfect Day for Banana Fish.
Ooh.
You can actually go and read that. I did not read that myself. There's a Wikipedia article dedicated to the short story. I skimmed it. I didn't want to know what the fuck Banana Fish is, because within the first 3 episodes, and Cammy, you're watching this show too, so feel free to chime in.
All right.
Within the first 3 episodes, we get introduced into this world that is modern, yet it feels like sensibilities of the 80s, because the manga came out in the 80s, much like Parasite did, way before, like around the time of Dragon Ball and stuff like that. Parasite and this got adaptations way later in the game. So the criminal underground, the crooked cops, all that sort of stuff reminds you of the 80s. They, in the description here, say Ash Lynx's brother went insane in Vietnam. In the anime, they modernized that by essentially saying it was the Iraq War. He went insane, muttering banana fish as he guns down his entire platoon.
That scene was phenomenal. That grabbed my attention so quick.
I still need to watch it. I've heard, though, that it's very powerful.
And they also have modern sensibilities with iPhones and whatnot. But again, it feels very 80s. It gives me like a Godfather feel, essentially, where they have the criminal underground, and essentially, as a description said, it's Ash Lynx finds this guy and murdered in the back alley, and then he gives him a pill, and then he says banana fish before he dies. He takes it to a doc to try and figure out what that is, but then the plot just develops in such a way that it's like, oh man, he's being set up, people are crooked, the crime boss, the crime syndicate is essentially rigging the system to cut ties with Ash Lynx. And how Eiji fits into this is essentially he's just the wrong person at the wrong time, but I can guarantee that Eiji's going to change Ash's future in such a way that they're going to rely on each other. It should be noted that this is considered a shoujo. This is considered boys' love. So that's really interesting, and Eiji and Ash do have a sexual chemistry to each other. I did let Cass know, however, in the first couple episodes, yes, it does not really shy away from the fact that there are, at least you can definitely tell that there is child prostitution, molestation, rape. It's not very kind to Ash, and it's no wonder that boy is pissed off at the world because he's 17 and all the guys like to make him the bitch in that sort of sense. Yeah, it's just wild, man. From what I've seen, it's going to be 24 episodes, so I'm very curious to see where it goes. If it will adapt the entire story, which I have a feeling it probably will. Very intriguing. Cammy, do you have any other thoughts?
Did you hear that?
Okay, anyway.
Akio!
The only thing I was going to say is that it is definitely hard to watch some of the stuff that like Ash has gone through and goes through in the show, but I also really appreciate that like Banana Fish as a media doesn't shy away from that. Yeah, this is a very real thing that happens if you are, in Ash's position.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things that happen to prisoners that go to jail and stuff. It's a very real thing, and it's also it's showing it in a gritty, uncomfortable way. There's not fetishization, So I really appreciate just how kind of uncomfortable and gritty the show is getting, and I can't wait to watch more. I've only actually watched the first 2 episodes, but I'm so excited. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and I watched all 3, and it does not shy away from that, but being in Papa Dino, or essentially the Godfather's crime organization, Ash becomes a lieutenant or like a leader of his own gang, and then shit hits the fan. Edgy essentially is now trying to help Ash. At the end of episode 3, he gives him a nice kiss. So get in on it, girls. The boys are kissing at the end, and he slips him a note saying, "Hey, you need to essentially get the drug that I gave the doc out of there because trust no one." And I'm like, intrigue. I love it. Did you get the point? This show swims. Swim, banana, swim!
Swim, banana, swim! I love it.
Yeah, and final thoughts. The opening is baller. It kind of reminds me of like early 2000s anime where it's scenic shot, the running shot, the shot where they're like fighting each other. It's cool. It's a wild ride.
See, the more that I hear you talk about how much you like the intrigue and like how harsh everything in it is, even more so I'm just like, Craig, you need to watch Monster. Oh, you'd love it. Like, I'm just sitting here so focused on that. We will get you to watch it.
Monster.
One day.
All right,
Munch,
and the
munch.
final
Crunch,
show
crunch.
of the evening is John's final thing. Cass, read what John has prepared for the class tonight.
Cool. I'll read through John's, and then afterwards I'll do a very quick read through of what our swims are for the season, which are not very many, surprisingly, in all of our sinks. So, John's last show is Tenrou Sirius the Jaeger. Jaeger! Nice. It's animated by Studio PA Works, so I am definitely expecting something pretty. If there's one thing PA Works can do, it's pretty. It's not always interesting, but it is definitely pretty. But let's see what this is about, because I actually don't know crap. The synopsis goes as such. The series takes place in the imperial capital of 1930. A group of people known as Jaegers landed on Tokyo Station. They carry musical instrument cases and came to hunt vampires.
Oh, I remember this.
A man named Yuli stood, or is it Yuli? Whatever.
Unity?
Stood among,
Yeah.
Yuli? Stood among them with a striking serenity and unusual aura. Known as a werewolf who had his home destroyed by vampires, he and the Jaegers engaged in battle against the mysterious holy ark known as the Ark of Sirius. What truth awaits them? So, John's thoughts are as followed. I chose this series hoping for some cool vampire versus werewolf action. What I got, however, was some interesting character interactions that are already showing developments, an intriguing plot that's got me invested, and fight scenes that are incredibly well choreographed and stunning to watch. With the 3 episodes I've watched, the studio has shown they know how to flash a budget and then slow it down some. Yeah, that sounds like
Nice.
PA works. While there has been some moments I found a little predictable, I attribute that more to how much media like this I've consumed over the years rather than any fault on the production itself. There is some CG, but it's mostly used to its strengths, like on vehicles during car chases. The only other times I noticed it were on a caterpillar and one brief moment for a crowd that lasted a whole 2 or 3 seconds. Even for the car chase, I only noticed due to how fluid it all moved. The only real downside to it all is that it's a Netflix licensed series, so nobody is paying it any attention right now. But despite that, if it wasn't already obvious, the series swims, and I'm looking forward to seeing these characters more and suggest people check the series out as soon as it becomes legally available. Here's just hoping it keeps up the current pace and doesn't slow down to a doggy paddle by the series end.
All right.
So woo! I'm actually
Another
intrigued by
one.
this one. It did look very pretty. I just didn't know much about it.
The main guy's hot too. I'll just say that.
There are a lot of hot guys this season.
Yes, that was a clean whistle. Damn.
Listen, it's how I do, girl. So let's go run through this very quickly, and then we can get out of here. So this season, Craig has dropped FLCL Progressive, Harukana Receive, Ongaku Shoujo, and Jashin Dropkick. I have sunk Backstreet Girls and High Score Girl. Cami has sunk Chio-chan no Sugakuro, Grand Blue, Free, Dive to the Future, no pun intended on the sinking, Tsukugami Kashimasu, and John has sank Planet with Chisei no Subaru and Yuragi-sou no Yuuna-san. So most of our shows sank. Here's the great stuff that swam. We've got Satsuriku no Tenshi, Shoujo Kageki Revue Starlight, and Happy Sugaraifu from yours truly. Both my Edge shows passed. This is how you know summer's just dwindling, guys. I got them both, and nobody complained. Cami swam Asobi Asobase and Hanebado, a swap in.
Yeah, I kind of cheated.
but needed swap it. It's okay. You would have qualified for a lifeboat anyway.
Yeah.
And John swam Hataraku Saibo and Tenrou Sirius the Jaeger. And Craig, our first person to only pass one show for a season, passed Banana Fish, or swam Banana Fish. So we actually only have 8 shows that swam from the summer season.
That's good.
So that's pretty good, guys. And we will definitely take note of that, and I will make sure we get all of this stuff moved over. But that's our summer season.
Bitchin'.
Awesome.
Alrighty then, that has been episode 74 of the Any Chat Box. Again, I've been your host, Craig. That's to my immediate right is the producer extraordinaire, Cass. To my immediate left is the cinnamon roll of the podcast, Cami. Again, if you want to hit us up on social media or email, twitter.com/anychatbox and anychatmail@gmail.com. Again, that is anychatmail@gmail.com. And with that being said, thank you all for tuning in, and stay tuned next week for we will continue our mainline reviews. Next week is a double up, so 2 for the price of 1 episode. Get hype.
It's gonna be so good.
That's gonna be the Cami episode. I'm very excited to hear
so
all the squealing and gushing. I'll be right there with you, but I'm excited to hear your happiness. And everybody else's too. I think most people love the shows we're gonna be talking about next.
What are they? Stay tuned.
Find out.
Hey.
Lates, folks.
Peace.
Bye, y'all. Ano ne? Ano ne?
Ano ne? Ano ne?
Ano ne? Ano ne? Oh god, don't include that. That's scary.
Ano ne? Ano ne?